How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I've spent a week playing around with the Anbernic RG503 and this is my review on it, what I enjoy, what I don't like with it, what I love with it, and yeah, just everything about the device. I'm going to go into detail and just give you my thoughts and opinions on how I've been enjoying it. So let's go. So this is the Anbernic RG503. I've been using it for a week now and I want to give you my honest opinions and thoughts about the device. To show you that, guys, that I actually do use these devices on a regular basis. This Anbernic was my previous Anbernic device I was using, playing like Pokemon ROM hacks and, you know, maybe the odd fighting game, Street Fighter, all the school arcade style games, and it was just something I'd take around, you know, put in my backpack and, you know, play in other places except home. So yeah, it did the job really well. This is the metal version and it's a very solidly well built device. Haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. I actually updated the firmware on this one to a different OS, so that enabled me to tweak around with the RetroArch on it a little bit more. But yeah, it's been great for me. So it's nice to see how they've improved the device, going over to the RG503. So yeah, like I said, this is the RG503. Main thing about this device is it has an OLED display. It's literally just underneath 5 inches. I think it's 4.95 inches. So it's pretty much 5 inches. If I get my PS Vita for comparison, you'll be able to see the difference. So this is my PS Vita, for example. I'm not sure if it has any charge. I haven't played my PS Vita in a while now. No charge. But yeah, as you can see, very similar in size. It kind of, I think the PS Vita is slightly smaller. The screen on the PS Vita does look a tiny bit bigger, but like that's probably where that 5-inch display comes in, whereas that's like a 4.95. Both OLED panels though, both suffer from the same problem as the cheaper OLED panels, I will say. Don't get me wrong, the screen looks amazing. You're going to be seeing various clips of me playing games throughout me talking. But yeah, the screen looks absolutely beautiful. But if you're playing it at night time, unless you say you're playing it in bed, it's like the middle of the night, pitch darkness, and you're on a black screen. If you look closely, you can actually see like a green tinge to the screen. There might be some like air bubbles with like green outlines and stuff. And I did notice that on my PS Vita as well. It must just be something to do with the older panel. I haven't looked into it. I haven't looked into it in more detail because it's really not that noticeable. But I just thought I'd mention it. That you probably won't even notice it, to be fair, but yeah, I just thought I'd mention it as far as panel quality goes. And I will also say that the panel doesn't get as bright as I would really want it in like normal everyday usage. See, I'm going from using like my iPhone, which can get up to like, I don't know, past 1,000 nits of brightness now, I think, in HDR content. But yeah, it's a lot more than the nits we have on this unit, which is, I think it hits just over 300 nits. So it doesn't get massively bright, but once you get used to looking at it, it's really not a big deal. As you can see from the gameplay here, it looks amazing. The darks are completely pitch black, and the colours really pop out of the screen nicely. I just say it doesn't get as bright as maybe you'd expect it to after looking at like the OLED panels of a Samsung phone or an iPhone. But for what it is and what it does, it really doesn't need to get any brighter. Maybe a good thing for your eyeballs as well, you know. They're always looking at really bright screens these days, so it's not really a big issue to have a screen that's a little bit dimmer. The games I've been playing mostly on it is Pokemon Emerald and a couple of the fighting games like King of Fighters and Street Fighter. Pokemon has been fantastic for me. As you can see from the gameplay here, I've literally just been blasting through Emerald. I found it more enjoyable to play on here than I have actually to play it on my original Game Boy Advance. I have a Game Boy Advance with Emerald in it, and yes, it's like the original way to play it, so you can't really beat that. But when you've got a screen that looks this good, and you've got the ability to fast forward, so you can skip tedious leveling ups of your party Pokemon, it is a game changer. Because like me, and I'm sure a lot of you have already finished Emerald multiple times. Same goes with Fire Red and Leaf Green, Ruby, Sapphire. I found that because I'm so used to being spoiled by an XP share that covers the entire party in the more recent games, I just find the older games a bit tedious as far as leveling up goes. So an amazing feature of this new device is you can actually fast forward. I say this new device, it isn't, it's a RetroArch feature that you can now activate on this device. It works on all Anbernic products as long as it's got a fast forward mode built in. You can hot link the controls. I say it's easier on this device, that's what I was trying to say, because there's an F button at the bottom of the device, and this enables you to do some really cool hotkey kind of stuff. You can do that on other Anbernics, but it just has a built-in function button at the bottom, which kind of like doesn't get in the way of you pressing any other buttons. You know what I mean? If like on my other Anbernic device there isn't a function button, so I had to map the actual face buttons I was using to create hotkeys. So sometimes I'd activate them without even realizing, and it would just be a nightmare when I was like loading states when I didn't mean to. So to have the function button on the bottom of here is very useful for loading, saving states, and for fast forwarding in general, because like I say, a lot of these older games are a bit tedious. We're so used to fast-paced saving systems, checkpoint systems, and all the modern day features that, coming back to these classics, they play at a lot slower pace. I'll give you another example. The older Pokemon games such as Silver and Gold, and any before that, Crystal, you name it, they don't actually have a running feature. So you're having to walk through the world, and that takes the time. Not only are you like having to level up your entire party, you're having to just walk through everywhere, and that's great when you're first playing to experience everything, but it can become tedious if you're playing the game for a second or third time. So like I say again, the fast forward feature, killer feature for me on this one. Loved using that fast forward feature. I say I'm reviewing this device, I'm really just giving you my thoughts and opinions on Anbernics in general, and this device is one of the ones I'm mainly going to play from now on because of the screen. And as you can see, I'm showing multiple different gameplays here. The screen is just absolutely stunning. It's an OLED panel. I'm pretty sure it's very similar to the panel that they use in the PS Vita, hence why I said about the green tinge. So yeah, we'll move on to controls now. So controls for me haven't been a massive problem. Like I say, I've played a couple of fighting games to try and get the combo system nailed on this analogs on the D-pad here, and it's very similar to many other Anbernics D-pads. So snappy and responsive, doesn't click too much. So it's nothing like a Joy-Con's D-pad, which isn't really a D-pad, they're more like buttons. This is an actual D-pad. It's responsive, it's clicky, and yeah, it definitely registers combo moves in fighting games. Before, if you was wondering that, it definitely is great for fighting games. Over on the other side, the face buttons, I have to say, I do prefer the face buttons on my other Anbernic device, the 351MP, just because they're a little shallower, so you don't have to press them down as far. For this, it seems to me that this this device has pretty high raised face buttons. Some people may like that. I prefer them to be a little shallower, just so they're easier to click. I feel like when I'm playing Pokemon, I'm spamming the A button to get through text, and yeah, it just took a little bit longer because of it's a very minor nitpicky thing, but because of how like a tiny bit more raised the face buttons were, yeah, it just made it a little bit, took a little bit longer to press down. So if I was to nitpick anything on the device, the face buttons a little bit too tall for my liking. I prefer them a little bit shallower, but by all means, they're not bad face buttons. They're responsive, and they have a nice click to them at the end, and they spring back up nicely too. So all good so far on that front. The analog sticks, haven't really used them a lot. You're having to, if you're using analog sticks, you're gonna have to hold the device in a weird way, because I couldn't hold the device normally and use the analog sticks. My fingers were gonna cramp up, and my hands aren't the biggest hands in the world. So if you've got big hands, you're gonna have to hold the device in like kind of like a stretched out claw kind of form. It's playable, but just know that the analog sticks they're kind of tacked on to be used in games, but as far as comfort goes, that's kind of like a secondary thing that they've not really thought about because of the limited space. So yeah, analog sticks, I haven't used them in any of the games I've played, but I can see them being a bit of an issue if you've got bigger hands, for sure. You've also got an L2, an L1, an R1 and an R2 built in here. Super easy to hold down and press. I've got obviously the save states mapped to my L2 and R2, so I was always using L2 and R2 to load and save state in games. Very easy to access. They're not at the back of the device like a normal L2 and R2 are. Obviously, due to the limited space, they're placed to more into the center of the device, but it makes it quite nice when you wrap your index fingers around the top of the device. You can hold them on L2 and R2, and you can use the middle of your index finger to press L1 and R1. So the comfort is there for the index fingers for sure. The firmware that comes on with the device, I found it to be substantial for me. There is possible ways for you to modify the firmware, upgrading it to a firmware called the ArcOS. I'm pretty sure it makes it a little bit more stable and just gives you a few more customizable options. But for me, who was literally just playing Pokemon on this device, some arcade games, I didn't really find it necessary to upgrade my system's firmware. And plus, I really do love the splash screens on this firmware. They blend in really nicely with the black OLED screen, and they just look really clean. Some great sound options picked on here as well. You can also scrape the images for your games, but I haven't yet because this SD card comes loaded with a ton of games. So if you go through scraping all of them, it'll take a few hours to do that. I recommend taking the SD card out, putting it into your computer, and just really getting rid of any systems that you're not bothered about playing, and just limiting the files down to maybe a few hundred games that you want to play on the device, because it can get a little overwhelming when you're scrolling through all these games. Trust me guys, there's a ton of games on this device preloaded, so keep that in mind before you start playing your games and stuff. Yeah, so like I say, firmware on this device, had no issues with it. It looks really nice, does the job. All I needed it to do was give me access to the games and have a built-in RetroArch where I could map buttons, hotkeys to, like fast forward and skip, etc. And it does it really well. I haven't really played any harder to run titles on the device, don't get me wrong. This has a quad-core RG503 CPU, and I'm pretty sure that is an older CPU that's been in a few other Anbernic products. This is going to retail for around $150, this device, so a little bit on the higher of the Anbernic devices, but it is very similar to the MP351MP, and I'm pretty sure they do share the same CPU. If not, I'll correct myself now. But yeah, you're not going to get amazing performance on games such as PSP, some PS1 games, although a lot of PS1 games do run really well on this device. I've played Crash Bandicoot and just a few titles like that. And you may struggle in Nintendo 64 a little bit. You can see some gameplay on the screen now, and yeah, you can make your judgment if it's running at full speed or not. I'm not used to playing these games, so I can't tell you if they're running perfectly or not, but yeah, to me, it looked great. And the speakers on the device do get extremely loud, but if you blast them to like 100%, you can start to hear a bit of tinniness to the sounding of the speakers. So I normally keep them on around 50, and that's way louder than I ever need it to be for these games anyway, so had no issues with the speakers whatsoever. And yeah, as far as the device goes, guys, it's quite big. So if you wanted a more portable device, I'd go with the smaller handheld, which is the RG351P you could go for, or the MP. They have a different ratio of screen though, so I'd double check on what games you want to play, more suited for the screen ratio. But yeah, if you're in the market for an emulating device with an OLED screen, you're not going to get much better than this one. I just want to say thank you to the guys at Banggood for sending me this. And yeah, I'll leave a link in the description with my affiliate code if you want to purchase it, or feel free to go on Banggood's website and do it. Just do it natural way. You don't have to use my affiliate link. I'm not forcing you to use my affiliate link. Just if you want to go into the description and do that, by all means do it. There's also going to be a code down there to get 20% off the device itself, so you might save yourself some money using that code. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be my in-depth look into the Anbernic device, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, guys, and if you want to see some more Anbernic device reviews, let me know. I'm always down to play some more games. I kind of do want to delve more into Pokemon Crystal, so maybe when I get a different device, I can play a different Pokemon game on it and see how it works. But yeah, had a ton of fun on this system, and feel free to go purchase one yourselves or not, it's up to you guys. But yeah, thank you for Banggood for sending me this device, and I'll speak to you guys.